Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. So this one is year 4, blog 11, or in legacy numbers, it's blog number 167. And it's dated the 4th of May, 2025. And usually I just look out the window and it's a sunny day. It started off quite dull. We've had some quite good weather. In fact, extremely hot is probably one way of looking at it. It all depends, of course, where you are in the country. I know that we hit temperatures of around 28, 29 degrees around Thursday, Friday. So it was quite muggy at night, sometimes difficult to get to sleep. But with my sleep deprivation, it's a bit hard to say whether that was a cause or not. But there's been a lot to talk about in regards to myself, but we'll get the news and everything out the way first. And as always, not particularly great news at that. But I'll try to read my chicken scratch. I'm sure it'll be okay. So we start off with the war between Russia and Ukraine. And it's got Ukraine has destroyed a Russian Su-30 fighter jet using a missile fired from a seaborne drone in what has been called the world's first downing of a combat plane by a maritime drone. In other news, Zelensky dismissed a 3-day truce ordered by Putin as theatrics, but said Kiev was ready for a full ceasefire. He said the ceasefire as a tactic for readiness of retaliation to see how fast Ukraine could assemble back if there was a Russian attack. All difficult really to take in, isn't it? Because the ceasefire is what you want, and then you start getting paranoid and you start going, yeah, but if I put all my guns down, is that going to be something where they'll retaliate? We can't assemble that fast together and they will make more edgeway into our country. But it's a legitimate threat and I can understand it. There is a planned 30-day ceasefire. Maybe that one, because it's less about 3 days, very little. That one will work out a little bit better. From my perspective, just like always, I'd like the war to end. It's what we all want. It's what we all dream for. At the end of the day, as well, I started my blog 2 weeks after the war started. So, if I'm on the 167th week, which we are, that's heading into quite some period of time now. But we'll move away from the war and we'll talk about news in other areas. And again, nothing absolutely ultra fantastic going on. So we start off with Reform UK makes big gains in the English local elections. They won 677 of around 1,600 seats, mainly held by the Conservatives, but the Labour only defended 2 seats. They were quite large, Doncaster and somewhere else, and lost them all. If that's not a big indication to Labour and a slap in the face, take it. Conservatives always going to lose seats. If you're not going to have a strong enough team to battle Labour, maybe the world, or at least England, is definitely looking at reform as a way forward. I don't mind reform, but I'm not a fan of Farage. He's the politician at the head. Never liked him, really. I think he's a bit sly. But then again, aren't all politicians? Have to be careful what I say there, really. But So other news it was all over the news for a couple of days from around about Wednesday, Thursday. The Sycamore Gap Tree trial has started this week. The iconic tree was felled down in September 2013, and it was caught with camera footage. This camera footage has been taken, to use as evidence, and there is an argument going on for the two that are accused, saying they've been set up. They also state that just because you were there doesn't mean you were doing it, etc., etc. It goes on and on and on. All I know is that tree, it's been used in so many films. It's along Hadrian's Wall. It's in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's in a number of films. And my God, it was such an iconic thing. To chop it down, just ridiculous. So enough about that. And the only other thing I really saw was that Madeleine McCann's family marked the 18th year since her disappearance. So, yeah, Madeleine McCann, I don't think anybody can forget Madeleine McCann, snatched away from parents, 18 years now. I mean, she must be unrecognisable, and have a totally different type of life, which doesn't give me the carte blanche to sort of like turn around and say you're in the wrong for constantly trying to look for her. You just have to understand that, wow, how many years has gone by since that process? I wish the families well. I wish things were better. And the 9th of May, which happens this week, is VE Day. And celebrations are all already in effect. There's been lots and lots of picture taking, dressing up, merriment in London. And the 9th will be an absolute blaster of a party, I should think. And really, that concludes the news, because there isn't much else to say. There is about me, and I just had a knock at the door, so I'm going to come back in just a moment. So just bear with me a moment. And I suppose we better really get on and talk about my mother, and this week, really. And I always try to think of a new word, but to be quite honest, everything now really is a challenge and a hindrance, which is a problem that just needs to be overcome. And I long for a new norm, a new normality. That's how I'm thinking at the moment. And this blog is all about my thoughts, which is why sometimes when I go into deep thoughts and talk about it, you'll see me sort of like droop and so forth, because I'm deeply thinking about the problem and how I'm addressing it at the moment, which is usually probably the wrong way, and the right way just comes to you as you just move forward. So I recap really an awful lot in the fact that all the time that the nurses were here, this chair was a problem. This chair that I bought from Amazon, what a nightmare this chair has been. And we're in like sort of like the 6th week, and it's been settled now in Amazon's point of view, not in mine, which indicates to you that pretty much I lost. But I didn't lose, it's just I didn't get what I wanted. It's sort of like a letdown. It's like emotional. You look for emotional. What's the word I'm looking for? Closure. Okay, and there is no monetary thing that you can do for that. And I suppose that's why Amazon look at it from that perspective. But from my perspective, if you've been let down and you know that somebody else has made the mistake, and you've been hindered by a process, then you expect it to be rectified in your favour. And from their point of view, they think it will have been. But they didn't live the life I did with it. So just to give you some background on this chair has had to be put at the bottom of my mother's hospital bed, which is in what we used to call our second living room. It's where my mum now sort of like sleeps, and we spend most of our time there, washing her, putting her in her pajamas, putting her in a proper clothes for the day, cleaning her teeth, and where all of the freshly washed and pressed clothes go every day. And you have to go round this chair to actually get things working, because the other thing is that my mum has to use now a commode. Not the nicest of things in the world. You think about it, it's a very disgraceful thing, something that you don't want. I remember my mother, even in the last 2 to 3 years, joking about it and saying that she'd rather die than have somebody wipe her ass for her. And that's how my mum phrased it. And I look at it in pretty much the same way. I mean, we go through life, and unless you're a naturalist, we clothe ourselves to hide, and it's to hide our dignity, they say. But I don't want to show the world my private parts. You know, it's something that you just don't want to do. As a kiddie, when you had a little made-up swimming pool in the garden, and you were like 2 years old, and you were running around the garden with your hands up going whee, and then diving into the pool with no clothes on, it must have been a very freeing moment. But the moment that you went to primary school mixing with other kids, you went there in clothes, then it was all privacy. You know what I mean? Not drummed into you. It's just it's a natural thing that sort of like happens. You know. So yeah, I'm sure my mum is aware that I'm having to buy pads for her. You know, for incontinence, and my sister is having to put creams on and so forth. To keep her clean, and it's very difficult for me because my sister can't be here 24/7, and I'm my mother's son, and so putting a pad on your mother is not something that I can really do very well. So my mum does that as best as possible. What I will do is I'll go behind her, because she can't bend down and pick things up. So of course I'm there to sort of like pull things up, if you see what I mean, from behind. So I'm only ever seeing my mum's backside, if you see what I mean. And I'm pulling up pads that my mum's put into place, and I put the knickers over the top, and I put the trousers over the top, and then I get rid of the, you know, what can you call it? The waist, the number twos, all of that, cleaning it all up, spraying the air with refreshing, nice smells, not smells of urine. It's a horrible subject, but of course this is a blog, so I have to talk about those things. But anyway, going back to this chair, of course I got a note on Monday from the seller saying the box was my responsibility, for which I went back to Amazon and I told them from the second week it's been agreed the box and the label is the responsibility of the seller, and the A to Z guarantee was supposed to make sure that there was a happy outcome for me. And the lady wrote down the notes. And on Tuesday I got another note saying he didn't care what Amazon said. Basically, the box was my responsibility. So I phoned up, and that's where it really ended. I spoke to a lady. I told her there was 39 notes that she'd need to read. There was at least 11 phone call transcripts, all done on recorded tape, because you always get the message to say that things are recorded voice-wise for educational and training reasons, etc., etc. And she came back and basically said that because the guy had stated I could keep the chair, then the label in the box was null and void. And I said, well, it's not really null and void, because Amazon had already said I could keep the chair in the second week. And the reason I don't want the chair is I'd have to skip it. And if I have to skip it, there's only two ways of doing it. Me leaving the premises to get rid of the chair, which I can't do because I'm looking after my mum. You see what I mean? Where I was coming from with this. And if I was to phone up and ask the council to pick it up, it costs money. So I'd get my refund, but I'd have to spend part of my refund skipping the chair. So how am I winning on this? I should be not having to pay for something, all down to the fact that their delivery and pickup process is in the years of the ark. They didn't look at it like that. They said, and they also said that the best that they could do with compensation is give me a £10 voucher, which I said was a joke. I said, my God, I said, I've bought stuff from you in the past, and customer services have been brilliant, and I've had scratches on steelbooks, and they've sent me another one and told me to keep the old one of a value of 35 quid, and you're telling me a £10 voucher is the maximum you can go to? You're a laugh, you're having a joke. And I said it pretty much like that. And they said, but I was missing the point. And I said, what's that point? And they said, you bought it from a third-party seller, not Amazon. So this third-party seller trades through Amazon. And therefore, the terms and conditions are between you and the seller. And all they can be is the middle ground person. And I said, right, I understand that. Should we look at it then from another perspective? I'll accept the refund. I'll accept your £10 voucher. But how do I complain about Amazon customer service? And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you've let me down. You've already admitted that 2 weeks into this, you said that that the label in the box was the sole problem of the seller, and what you're coming back now is saying that that was wrong, that no customer service person should have said that, because they should have realized it was from a third-party seller. He said what he would do is he's got a document that lists all the people I spoke to, and they would be retrained. And I said, well, I'm jolly good and happy that people after me are going to learn from this. It doesn't fill me with joy. I'm the person who's had to walk round this damn thing. I'm not exactly a storage person. I'm not a warehouse for this chair. So don't you think, therefore, then that I should get more than £10 for storage of this chair? I mean, even the amount of hours I've had to phone to talk to Amazon in regards to this would total a total of a day's wage. How much do you get paid? I said, per day. That's what I'm looking for. And he said, there is no method to complain to customer services. And I said, that's ridiculous. Everybody's got a procedure and a complaint. I don't believe what you're telling me now. I want to speak to your manager. And all I could get out of them was they would diary a note for somebody to phone me back. And that never happened. Here we are. So I've got a £10 voucher to spend at Amazon, whoopee woo, and a refund on a chair, which I should have anyway, and I've got a chair that I don't want because it's defective, stuck at my house until I get rid of it. And some people could say, yeah, but use Facebook Marketplace and all of this sort of stuff. It's a defective chair. I've got to spend my time now writing it up and asking people to only come round and get it, and delivery, etc., etc. All this bollocks is what I think to it all. So I could go down the line of I'd look down the how do you complain, by going to Citizens Advice and finding out how did you get a number to speak to somebody higher up at Amazon. But at the end of the day, it's not going to get me anywhere. So I suppose I have to live with it. And that's pretty much the end of the chair saga, which means I'm back to square one. But of course, I haven't got my refund back. So I have got a £10 voucher. And I do have a chair that's almost brand new. It's only been sat in twice. I suppose really I come away with a win. But is it really a win when you consider what I've just said? 4 weeks on top of that second week of me going round this chair. Getting this chair out every time a driver was going to be picking it up, only for the driver to say, I want a label. And then having to put it back. And I've got sciatica and for arthritis of the left knee. And it's not exactly easy for me to keep getting this chair out, only to have to then put it back the same day when you're trying to look after your mum. So yeah, I am a bit red raw on it. And it's sort of like a numbing rawness that you get from a tooth that you've got a cavity on. It's nagging. It's always there in your back of your brain that you've got a pain in your jaw. And over time that'll go away, and that's how I have to look at it. You could say that I'm moaning, and I'd agree with you, but you're not living my life. And there are other things that are going on at the same time this is happening. So yeah, nobody really won. You know what I mean? And it's not about a win anyway. It's about what is right and what is wrong. Whichever way you look at it, even if the supplier was right, Amazon are wrong, or if the supplier thinks he was in the right, he was in the wrong. It's one of the both. It's not me. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the person who bought it, found a defect and said, I want another. And that's where the whole thing started. So, yeah, we'll drop that now. Moving on. We had the occupational therapist from the council turn up. They're bringing a chair round, not this Monday. Sorry, not a chair. A table for the chair. Not this Monday, but the following Monday. It will go round the whole of the chair, the front. So the stands are on the left and right hand side of past the arms of the chair, and it'll give my mum something that she can rest her cup of tea on, eat from, put 1,000-piece puzzles together, read the newspaper without it dropping on the floor, all of that sort of stuff. So that's going to be a nice quality of life thing, which I hope will incorporate the ability to give her something to keep her brain active. Because my mother's got cognitive memory issues. And I've got to know that really that's degenerative. It's not going to get better. It's how long I can keep my mum at the mindset that she's at the moment. And it can only decay. So it's a ticking time bomb. So there's that. My sister added that we wanted ramps at the front of the house because trying to get out of the door onto a step which leads onto the ground, so that it's a two-way step, the ramp would be so much easier. And the Zimmer frame that we've got is an indoor one, not an outdoor one. for which they also can supply that. So we've got an outdoor Zimmer frame coming. Now that they've learnt that I take my mother to have her hair done every Friday. As soon as that occurred, they said, oh yeah, we supply that. It's not a problem. It costs nothing. You get that as part of quality of life. Brilliant. My sister added that it'd be nice to get a foldable wheelchair, but we understand that that might be taking things a little bit too far. They're looking into that. And we said that would be so much better for getting down the ramp, per se, being as the ramp could make her slip and fall depending on the weather. So, yeah, they're looking into that. And the only other phone calls really in regards to my mother is the old nurses that basically said that we owe them for one visit by a nurse on Monday when the treatment of my mother ended on the Sunday. It didn't end nicely, the conversation with the nurses. We were never told when the official date was when my mother's long-term health care free service ended. Okay, we gathered it was around the 27th, 28th of April, but never had an official date. We never had an official agreement. When we phoned up, they said that they tried to get in touch with me, and I hold my hand up, and they did. The week before, they did make several phone calls to me. Each time they phoned me, I was in a meeting at work. They kept phoning. So I kept telling the nurses to, when they speak to head office, can you tell them to phone me outside of work hours, which they never did. And I also said to tell them that whatever the end date is, please can you stop the nurses turning up on that particular day. So we found out through other means that Monday we shouldn't have had a nurse. A nurse turned up on the Monday. And we basically tried to stop the 3 other visits on that day. That's where we had that conversation that I've just talked about. They said, and this is really strange and funny, I'd blocked the number, which is why they couldn't get through to me. But my phone is totally open to that telephone number. It's not blocked at all. So that's a lie. They also said that we have to give them 2 weeks' notice. And my argument on that, and my sister totally agrees, is how can you have a 2-week notice if you don't know when the end date is? We constantly kept saying we don't know when the end date is. Plus, aren't you supposed to have a terms and conditions that tell you this? We haven't even got a written agreement. We've got a sheet of paper that says when the free service was being given to us, and that we would be assessed for short-term or long-term health aid, for which a nurse came along and said you need long-term, but the long-term is not given to you as a figure. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, all that. We've been guessing. So we just laughed at it and said, it's ridiculous. We liked your service to us. You're too expensive. £2,498 is something we can't accept to. And to try and get my mother to sign a direct debit to have her money come out would be as much coercion as it would be me asking my mother for money or power of attorney. We haven't heard from them since. So that sort of ended that, and it does tell you the story that from Monday, my sister and I have been alone. So this is the first week where we've done everything. Everything those nurses did, we do now. And it's meant a lot more scrutiny, I suppose, on getting things correct. My sister doesn't live here. My sister didn't watch the nurses. I did. So it's up to me to sort of tell my sister this is how it worked. This is how what my mother is familiar with. And then come to our own way of doing things if it's not deemed correct in the way that my sister has to do it, because obviously it'll be alien to her, and I totally get that. So I still do the washing, I still do the drying, I still get the tablets ready, I still get her a cup of tea, I still get her a toast, I still get her a dinner, I still get her a tea, I still get the commode for her. I don't do things like dress her, undress her, wash her, etc., etc. So we're working through it, and the only difficulty is probably the Friday, which is where I take my mother to get her hair done, because if you can imagine it, my day starts at like 6:30 in the morning. I open the door so my sister could just walk straight through. I get everything all ready. 8 o'clock, 8:30, I'm sort of like doing work. I'm stepping away from work to finish off getting my mother out of bed. I'm then back at work for meetings. I'm then taking my mum down to the hairdressers, coming back, doing another half hour's work, going back to pick her up, bring her back, go shopping in my lunch hour, sit down at 2 o'clock to do more work up until 4 o'clock, and then be by myself totally until my sister turns up in the evening, where we get her to bed, and then my day finishes. And if you can imagine in that, where is the gap for pause, for sitting back and clearing your brain, having time to yourself? There isn't. I can tell you that now. And therefore Friday is probably the most stressful and the day that causes the most uproar. It makes me feel like I'm cheating work as well. So yeah, work continues to move forward. I continue to go backwards with it, and my mother remains at an even keel, not getting better. And that's probably the best way to sum up the week. But it's had its fun moments. On Wednesday, I do my little chat with Ian Hill, the Ramblings. If you don't know him, please look at the description in this blog. We do a movie or anything type talk, really. We talk about TV, music, everything, really. What we like to eat, what we like to drink, what's going on in the news at the moment. Everything, really. And it's my clearing my brain moment and spending time talking to people with like-minded hobbies that we all like. And you know, we learn about films that we've never seen or heard about, and that you can buy, and even now, and probably at a cheap price, and talk about those films and TV and so forth. So yeah, that's a great Wednesday, is something I totally look forward to. The other things I look forward to is anything on YouTube from my friends, or anything new on YouTube. And that's because I love education, I love memory, I love my hobbies, and but I rely that my friends are making content. If they're not making content, there's nothing for me to talk about. So yeah, it's again never a total 100% guarantee I've watched anything this week, and it's all I can really say on the matter, other than this is why I love my friends. They do such magnificent content, and it leads me sort of like nicely, I think, into rounding off the week. So you've heard about Friday, you've heard about Wednesday. Thursday was much like Tuesday. It's just looking after my mum, making sure everything's okay. And when you get to Saturday, it's blog prep and so forth. And then we're at Sunday. So that's been pretty much my week. I've had some things drop into me. I've played a couple of games. I've managed to find time to do that. And, you know, so that really covers what's happened this week. So I'm just going to go and check on my mum. And I will be back shortly, and we'll do the shout outs and the questions. I'm really enjoying it this week. That was, I think, quite an informative little bit of section about what I've been going through. Um, and the more I think about it, the better I feel about it. I don't feel last week went particularly badly when you consider where we are with my mum's healthcare. So back in a moment. Thanks very much. And so we get to shout outs because you pretty much know everything that's going on in my life this week. And I just want to, as always, say thank you to all of these people that have left me goodwill messages, asked me questions, make sure I'm okay, how I am. And they're all absolutely boosts to my life during the week. I miss a phone call, I miss human voice, but I've got the videos that people, content that come out that make me think they're talking to me. So YouTube is very good because most people's content is really like they're talking to me and only me. And that might be one of the reasons why people watch a blog. I'm talking to you, and you might think, wow, he's just talking to me. It's great. It's like he's in the room. And it's not that, but it's darn close. And I made a comment to wee Bob and said that I felt down because he's doing community questions, and I wish that I could give those a community answer, but it's very difficult for me at the moment to sit down and do a recording. You can tell I've done a couple of breaks already, and I feel bad about that. And he came back saying, no, don't feel bad at all. But I'm a very community person. So, of course, I feel I'm not doing my duty of a sort. But also, I want people to know what my answer is to those things. They aid with what I do in my blog, which is explain what I like, what I don't like, what I've bought this week, all of that sort of stuff. So it fits in well, a community question, into helping people in my family that might watch this when I'm gone understand what their uncle liked and disliked, what made him tick. So yeah, wee Bob always turned around and said that you should never think of these community questions as end all and be all, and that family and friends always come first. But to be quite honest, most YouTube friends are my only friends. I don't have people turn up for a cup of tea, and phone calls are long distance. In regards to their regularity and where they are in the world when I'm talking to them. So yeah, it's a difficult one to answer. It's one that makes you a little bit depressed sometimes, but you don't need to think too much along those lines. But I'm digressing a lot. These people, please, thank you very much, boosted my life, my quality of life, just by mentioning, a hello to me. And those people this week are Wee Bob Art, Denny, Steve's Gaming, Ian Hill The Ramblings, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Paul Gibbons, Martroid, Mainmeister, Robert's Retro Gaming, and Through the Lens. And hopefully I haven't missed anybody. We'll soon know, because as you know, I move now forward into their particular comments to me. So without further ado, let's do that. I've got the screen up with the text. I've got it quite large. Hopefully this will work out quite well. So the first one is from Wee Bob Art, and he's put, I watch and then forget to put a comment these days, and I'm sorry about that. If you see this, just all the best to you and your mum, and I hope things are going as well as they can do. And thank you so much. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. It's all I need, really, is a couple of lines like that just to make me smile and be happy. And you know a little bit now more about my week. It's been a hindrance week of a sort, but working through those problems. So thank you so much, and salute to you, sir. And the next one is from War and Peace Denny. And you know why I call him War and Peace? Because he writes so much. And it always makes him laugh, I hope. But he's put, oh, hiya, mate. This is how he starts off. Hiya, mate. I hope you're coping, and I hope your mother has started to show signs of recovery. And I think I've mentioned it already. It's more a matter of keeping her at the same level and not losing any more of my mum's memory. It's a time process, a degenerative process. Things will never go back to the way that they were, and I've come to that conclusion. But I'm happy, and I think my mum is too. You've mentioned just lately, like yourself, I've noticed a shift in how things have changed in the household due to illness of both of my folks. Also, different comments I've taken in personally for myself. Yeah, something that you learn very, very quickly at the beginning of this. The attic project is something I've been able to focus on and clear the decks, but it's also given me the chance to look back at the wonderful things I've bought over the years, collecting with some wonderful surprises. And it's one thing that I'm probably dead jealous of. I wish I could go up into my attic. At the moment, we're still waiting to put a gate across the door so my mother can't try and get up the stairs, which has required me to find my stud finder. Careful, it's not that type of stud, but it finds AC power lines in the wall and metal joists and pipes, because we do need to drill into the wall to put the catches in. So for this door, so going upstairs, I have to limbo under a piece of string, and then I have to get the steps down and then go up, and then I'm leaving my mum by herself while I'm doing that, which is a no-go area. So I have to live with the fact that that's not going to happen sometime soon for me either. You carry on. Some things will be let go, like the full set of Star Trek The Next Generation poster mags. I have the free specials to go along with these. First issue is currently going for over £100. So I should get a decent price for those. This will fund other collections, and I want to complete, and trading cards, which I'm careful to limit to certain comics or TV programs. Amazingly, the Blake 7 cards are quite cheap. I have the base foil and promo card sets, and they are quite cheap. Signature cards are out of the question, though, as I'm going that deep into the price of these things. Yeah. The charging of chase cards is quite astronomical when you consider how cheap a base set is these days. So yeah, totally get that. I'm with Ian, he says, on finding the cards you open as extremely therapeutic. It's exciting to see what you get. The coin card in your last video looks absolutely lush. Nice Spider-Man sets, and seems cheap to collect. Yeah. I got that set for nearly the price that it came out at, which is about 25 quid. And I got some chase cards that are worth some money. So it worked out quite well, and I got a video out of it. That was brilliant. You continue. Don't know about you, but there seems to be so much stuff coming out lately. Even my wallet is starting to complain. I must have up to 20 plus things on pre-order. Seems worse for you with the steelbooks. So many releases which have been announced just recently. Yeah, it's a constant thing to keep checking Facebook, eBay, etc. to find out what's coming out, how much it's going to cost, which country it's going to be in, etc., etc. So yeah, absolutely mental it is. Then you continue, hoping and looking forward to meeting up again very soon, if things allow you to. Very memorable day trying to beat Jim Jam to all of the bargains in the charity shop. And there's something about HMV, as I always seem to come away with something from that shop. Forbidden Planet, I know, have trading cards. So there's sure to be something for me when we go next. Take care. Best wishes as always to your mother. No, that's fine. Thank you so much. But you do have a question as well. You've put, so question for this week. Imagine you were given the reins to do a cinema chain. What would you do to put bums back on seats in numbers? I remember the 80s and the video shops virtually killing the pictures, and when it rebounded too. Is there any trend you can see currently that needs to change to get bums on seats, you mean, I take it? Yeah, it's one of those difficult ones. I've always said that the cinema is a great place to go, but it's very costly for families. I think what I'd like to do is probably nothing really original. I'd like to do sort of like a themed decade week, you know, like 70s one week, 80s the next, showing those films. And then dressing the staff up in those decades clothes. And the other thing is offering food at a cheaper price to subsidise those people that are on low income families. So yeah, that would work for me, and I'd definitely go along those lines, I think. So that ends that. There's been another knock at the door, so I have to apologise a moment. I'll be back in a second. And I'm back, and my sister's given me a homemade cookie to eat. That's very nice of her. So, oh yeah. Bit hard to do when I'm doing a blog though. So I might have to pause again. Sister didn't think of that, did she? Anyway. Denny. Salute, my friend. Hope I gave a good answer before. Just bear with me. Yeah, it was about the cinema chain. So I definitely, you know, just to recap, do a decades thing, something like the 70s, the 80s, put films on based around there. But I've always found that you'd get more bums on seats if you halved the price of the food. I'd like to do a recap of how much money they make from that. Work on the fact that you might be increasing the bums on seats by a third and then dropping the price, say by a sixth or something, so your profit margins still go up and people feel like they're getting some value. Something along those lines. I can't do the math right now, but that was a good question. And I'll definitely go along those lines. But the food thing is the thing that I think, not on top of the fact that people do think that prices of cinema tickets is very high and that it's only cheap when you go during the day where there might be a cinema club price thing just once in the week where you can go and see a film for a £5 or something. So I definitely think the food thing is the thing that needs to be looked at. And like I say, there's a multitude of films that I'd show from the 70s, the 80s, that need showing as a cinema event again. Do you see what I mean? I can't quite remember when I saw, say, The Robe or Ben-Hur or Planet of the Apes at the cinema. It's nice to see new films. Definitely I would concentrate on those. But most cinema complexes these days are 5 screenings or more. And therefore, it doesn't hurt you to have 1 reserved or 2 for old films. So I'd definitely go along those lines. History is something that I think we all should have. And it's fun to go and see a film that you would have missed because you weren't born yet. at the cinema to see what the spectacle was all about. So we move on and we get to Steve's gaming, and it's so nice that I can hear from Steve again, and I can do my salute. Fucking hate you, you little bastard. Fucking hate you, you little shit. You're just too good, you little git. You know, which is got to be done because it's the law. But he's put, "Hi Del, great blog as ever. I hope you and your mum are okay and managing things now. I can imagine how tiring and stressful this will be for you, and I'm thinking about you. Not much else to say, so on with the questions. Question 1. What was the last book you read?" Oh my God. I've had that question before, and I've said I've wanted to do more reading, and I have started reading a book that Jambon gave me at Christmas, but the name eludes me. It's a Stephen King book. But the last book I read would have been a reference book. You know, a book on old TV, a book on old music, you know, the top 40 singles of any year, all that sort of stuff. I read so much at work, you know, procedures and processes, and I write them up as well. Sometimes, should I say on that, that I don't think when I finish work that I want to read more. I should do, but it makes me tired. It's probably why you see my eyes droop when I'm reading questions out and stuff. It's a very stuffy room I'm in. It's quite warm with 5-6 monitors, all blaring heat at you. So yeah, what was the last book you read? But I think I did read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy last month. I always like to read that book, even if it's just starting it off and reading the excerpts that I love. It's just brilliant. But we continue. Question 2. What was the worst printer you ever owned? Oh, God. Mine was a Citizen 4 colour dot matrix one. It used an ink ribbon with 3 colours and black on it. Problem was, after the ribbon had been around 3 or 4 times, all the colours mashed up into muddy brown. And they were damn expensive too. All the best to you and your mum. And I've given you the next game now, so stop slacking and get on with it. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? I ain't getting a right old rant at me in a comment. Bloody hell. Calm down, matey. Bloody hell. No, I'm only just kidding. Oh, I've had some printers, and I've had the type of printer that you talk about. They're quite thick cartridges with the ribbons going along, and of course they're impact printers, little pins that go through them. So of course they basically hit the page, and you get the colour that you want, or it mixes them because it raises the cartridge on a pivot like this. And I've had some of those. I had a Commodore one like that, and I had a Citizen and a Brother like that. Brother printer. Which was the worst? The Commodore one wasn't particularly brilliant, I will say that. Wasn't the worst though. The worst printer I ever had was a SCSI printer. I remember that. Couldn't get it to work with the SCSI card I had. It was atrocious. When I did get it to work, it did exactly what you're talking about. And I can totally understand where you're coming from. So I should think probably the Brother one, the Brother 3 colour printer. I had some golf ball printers. They weren't particularly much better, but at least they were proper letters, and there was no dot matrix, and therefore there wasn't really much to do in regards to colour. But they did have colour versions of these golf ball printers. So yeah, definitely bad. Definitely some bad memories there as well. So I'm just going to say, "Oh, you little bastard, fuck off, you little shit, I hate you, you little crap," and say, I'm so glad you're back. Isn't it great that you're back? My God, I was so worried for you, matey. I'm hoping we get to chat sometime. That's what I look forward to. And we get to Ian Hill, the Ramblings, and he's put, "Hi, Dow Boy. Hope you and your mum are okay. Thanks for another wonderful blog. I'm a big fan of Big fan of it. Sunday wouldn't be the same without it. That's a nice thing to say. I'm writing this around Friday tea time and I feel totally worn out. I had to take a trip into town to my bank. There was a problem. I couldn't resolve it on the phone. I couldn't wait until Monday because it was a bank holiday. I didn't realise how hot it was inside the house. It's much cooler. I did what I had to do at the bank, then came straight back. I had no intention of looking around town. Just wanted to get back home. I'm just recovering now. No energy left. I feel so tired. At the moment, can't even think of any films I've watched. I've been watching a lot of history videos and music rankings of artists and other group albums. Thank you for the wonderful gift you sent me, the Elton John box set. So that brings me to this week's question. I'll make it easier for you by not giving you an amount. But what Elton John album do you recommend? All my best wishes to you and have a good time. Oh wow, let me have a think. Yeah, so I had to think while I was munching that biscuit. The nice thing, I suppose, about anybody that's been around as long as Elton John, 60 odd years, is the diversity and the amount of albums, which then makes it probably a bit difficult to mention them all. But there are quintessential albums that you've got to have of Elton John, and one of those is his self-proclaimed named album, which is just called Elton John, which came out in 1970. Some cracking tracks on there. Not only is Your Song on there, the most quintessential song you'd say is associated with Elton John, but it's got things like the Greatest Discovery, which is a beautiful track. I Need You to Turn To, which again is very short but lovely. So absolutely fantastic. And it's weird because that album didn't go to number one, but the next albums did, and there was a huge section in Elton John's life where he'll turn around and say everything he touched went to gold, and that was probably from his third album onwards, Elton John being the second album. Because you've got things like let's have a think. Tumbleweed Collection, Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. Rock of the West is Here and Now. Yeah, quite a few. So I'm going to go with the Elton John album at the very beginning. Then you get to the double gatefolded albums like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and The Captain and the Kid, which I believe you've got some on there. And of course, those have got tracks like Candle in the Wind and, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, of course. So there's some great stuff on there. Then there was a time where he split from Bernie Taupin, and it's written in the autobiography that some people look at it as being an argument that went too far, and they went their separate ways, but then came back together. But I like to think of Elton John's as being the proper answer to it, where he turned around and said, look, the only way that you can grow musically is to write for others. So we needed to stay away from each other. We'd done quite a few years at this particular point. And so therefore, we need to go away. And of course, Bernie Taupin went on and wrote sort of tracks for Heart. The rock band Heart did a track called These Dreams, which was written by Bernie Taupin. Elton John continued his thing, doing some duets and things like that. So don't get me wrong, there was some great stuff there. So the period of time we're talking about is a Single Man album. And then we get to the later stuff, and that probably comes from Reg Strikes Back, which has got Mona Lisas and Mad Hatters on it, amongst other such great classics. The to be continued compilation is just brilliant. You get to listen to some tracks you might not have even thought of in a great big deluxe box set. It's lovely. I'll show it one day. It's great. And let's see. So once you get past the Single Man and you're back with Bernie Taupin, you've got things like Club at the End of the Street. I think Club at the End of the Street. Yeah, not quite sure. I'm trying to think. But there's such great albums towards the end. You've got The One, brilliant album. You've got Crying Out Loud. No, it eludes me. But it's a very difficult thing. There's 39 or 40 studio albums. But you got Blue Moves. That's a great album. The Fox, that's a great album. The One, which I've mentioned. Peachtree Road. And I think that's it, because other than getting some compilations, like, let me have a look. If you get this compilation over here, I've got just on my desk on the side here. This is called Diamonds. It's the 72-page hardback edition book, which lists not only the lyrics but the albums and the linear notes from it. You can then listen to those tracks, find out what albums they're from, and then get them back, because there are albums that are pretty much damned as being pretty piss poor. One of those is the one I mentioned. I Need You to Turn to. What it's called now. That's bad, isn't it? I can't think of it. Bloody hell, my brain's gone to mush. But I think the reason why I like Elton John so much, just to give you some background on that, is the way he writes a tune, and I've tried to learn piano, is he gets the lyrics from somebody who's not even in the same room. He sits in front of them and he starts putting a chord structure together. And that's different to writing a tune from scratch, because most people will do the melody, put the words to the melody, and then foam in a line your guitars and go off and do the gig. He doesn't work like that. He works on the basis that the lyrics are passed to him. He writes the tune and the music go so well together, and it's then it's a tune for everybody to have. So yeah, great appreciation for Elton John, and I hope you like that answer. I'm just going to have a little eat of my biscuit, and I'll be back in a moment, as soon as my cursor comes back. Back in a moment. Of course, I always do things the hard way, and I mentioned at the end, look, you could get this Diamonds, or you could get To Be Continued. There's even something called Elton John, the Jewel Case, which has got 9 vinyl albums inside it, or 8 CDs. Bit of an expensive price, but of course these have got all the track listings on it. So there we are. I mean, it doesn't list the albums, but I sort of like know where they came from. So, you've got Tiny Dancer, Rocket Man, Honky Cat, Crocodile Rock. So a lot of those would have come from Tumbleweed Collection, Caribou, and so forth. Someone Saved My Life Tonight is a beautiful track. That's a gorgeous track. Let's have a look. Song for Guy. Then now we're getting into the early 80s. the death of a delivery man who used to do the deliveries for Elton John's band. Blue Eyes is actually not written by Bernie Taupin, so that's from I'm a Single Man, which I was talking about earlier. As is, I guess that's why they call it the blues. Nikita was a track that I remember listening to when I was at school, and I love that track. I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That is from Red Strikes Back, and that's a super fast track. Very, very great track. I play that one all the time. I really do like that one. Sacrifice. That's from Sleeping with the Past album. And I'll tell you what, there must be 8 tracks on there that I absolutely adore. And if there are only 10 or 12 tracks on an album, and you can turn around and say there are 8 tracks on there that are pure gold, then you've got to turn around and say that's got to be mentioned. And there are some great tracks on there. I think let's see. So you got Sacrifice, Healing Hands. Is it Blue Avenue, I think it's called. Club at the End of the Street. Fantastic track. Club at the End of the Street. How could I forget that one? So what do we move on with down here? It's got Something About the Way You Look Tonight. I Want Love. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Well, here's some much later ones like The Lion King. I Want Love is from Christ, I can see the cover of it right now. I've forgotten the name of it. That's going to annoy me. I'm going to have a look. I'm not going anywhere. It is Songs from the West Coast. That's it. Songs from the West Coast. Brilliant track. Skyline Pigeon is from the Empty Sky album, the very first album that I ever bought. Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny is his remembrance song and tribute to John Lennon's death. He wrote it 2 weeks after his death in 1981, is it? Brilliant. Played that to Ian Hill, The Ramblings, the other day, actually. Yeah. Some absolutely fantastic ones on here. And, like I say, I'm pretty sure I mentioned some albums there. If you're gonna listen to some later ones, I'll tell you what, The One is an album that I listen to an awful lot. But I listen to Made in England probably more than the albums I've mentioned before, because it's supposed to be a self-penned album about England and about Elton John himself. Made in England is about him, where he was bullied at school, but he had music to listen to that kept him going. There's a lovely track on there called Belfast, which is all about the city of Belfast, all about the conflicts that were there, the bullets in the wall that you can still see on the sides of houses. You've got a lovely track on there called Latitude. Latitude is about 2 people writing to each other across the globe, and it's dark on one side and light on the other when each person wakes up or goes to sleep. You're on totally different time zones. Love that track. Yeah, Made in England. What an album that is. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so many good ones. My God, I hope that's I must have spent an awful lot of time here and made a complete mockery of it all, because I've had to go back and remind myself of albums. But hey, that's made me think. It's woke me up as well. He says, all the best to you and have a reet grand time. I will, my friend, and I look forward to this Wednesday. I hope that helped. And we move to my I'll do salute to you and move to my other good friend, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, who does an absolute fantastic blog. Tell you, go look that one up. Who knew, that there was somebody as good as me? No, I'm only kidding. But, yeah, he does a great blog. And he's put, "Hi Del, thanks for another brilliant blog. As always, I hope you and your mum are doing great. Even if sometimes I'm not commenting frequently due to either being neck deep in work and or other personal shenanigans, I have the videos on in the background which helps me get through the day. Last week and going into this week, my mood has had its highs and unfortunately lows, which I'll elaborate. One of the highs was seeing Liverpool become Premier League winners, the 20th title in the club's history, equalling Manchester United's record after thrashing Tottenham 5-1 at Anfield. My throat was a little coarse from all the celebrating, but definitely worth it. The lows was hearing the passing of Mike Peters, the lead singer of The Alarm, one of the greatest groups from Wales. My dad and my uncle introduced me to their music at a very young age, and I've been a fan ever since. 68 Guns, Where Were You Hiding When the Storm Broke, and Rain in the Summertime. What brilliant songs they truly are, and I can't help but not agree with you. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, these people that write tunes, they all come from the heart. And, there's the constant having to promote and so forth when you just wanted to do a track that meant something. It's these people go through torture every day. I definitely don't take the piss out of people that are artists, my God. Anyway, you go to questions for the blog. Have you ever done any of the following by accident? Turning the bathroom light on when it's not even dark, or walking into the kitchen just to quickly realise you don't have any need to go in there, or maybe even both. Yes, I've done that. My God. Outside of here, it goes through to the garage, and the amount of times that I've turned the light on in the hall so that the light is on in the garage, I need to realise it's bloody bright day. There are windows that you can see through that basically let in the light, and it's not like it's pitch black in there. So I do that all the time. And the bathroom, the nurses do it more than me, but they turn the bathroom light on to empty the bucket for my mother. But then they forget to turn it off, and the extraction fan comes on, and it makes a bloody humming noise. It goes like this, and it's on for a good 10 or 15 minutes because the extractor fan is not that great anymore. It's been in that toilet now for 30 odd years. So yeah, it's not a great place to be. 2. Which Leonard Rossiter sitcom do you prefer? Rising Damp or The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin? Or The Rise and Fall of Reginald Perrin, depending on which season you're looking at. I think I'll always have a soft spot for Rising Damp, but it doesn't get away from the fact that these are two fantastic sitcoms, both of which I've got a great mutual respect for. And I used to love the concept of the shop Grot, where you just sell shit, basically. And people came in and spent extortionate amount of money on crap. What a great concept. Somebody ought to do that now. If they're not already, which they are. So I'm going to go with Rising Damp, but only just. Did you have a rally chopper or grifter as a kid? If not, did you ride one of your friends? My friends had them, yeah. I didn't. My dad bought me what they call a rally bomber. It was a huge bike with a cowbell type handles. It really just was a beast. I loved it to death. And I thought it beat hands down the grifter and the chopper. But it was a big bike and, very expensive. And it took my dad a long time to be able to save up and get it for me. What else do you got here? You've put if you could control the weather, what conditions would you have as in your own personal preference? Well, I like autumn because I like the colours, but I like an Indian summer, which is in the autumn, which is warm. So I suppose I really do the best of both worlds because I do get to see, you know, these lovely colours, and I do get to appreciate summer goes a bit longer these days. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much. What a great question. So let's go to the next one. Now, the next one's going to be a good one because I need to answer the question for Colin Jones from last week, for which I read out his text but never actually read out his question to him. That's bad of me, isn't it? But let's see what he's put this week. I started on YouTube before Google took over, and when the maximum upload was 10 minutes. We've definitely come a long way. Totally agreed. Hubble is still operating at the moment. Yeah, I asked that question last week, didn't I? Could have looked it up. Regarding colour, there's a very interesting Horizon episode called Do You See What I See?, which you'll find on Daily Motion, though it's split into 4 parts. Yes, I've seen that. The cost of the nursing is excruciating. Interesting times ahead. I hope it all works out and your mum is well looked after. Let's see, what have we got here? The chair saga is completely ridiculous. It's like you're starting from scratch each time with a new person who has no record. That's exactly what it was like. Quality of life and the ability to handle things better is almost definitely there. Those with blueness and wellness orange. Yeah. I was just looking at the article there about what the different things are for yeah. Just trying to find where we are because the text has gotten so small. Just bear with me. That's better. So the cost of the nurse is extortionary. Interesting times ahead. I hope it all works out and your mum is well looked after. The chair saga is completely ridiculous. It's like you're starting from scratch each time with a new person who has no record, which is true. Quality life and the ability to handle things better is most definitely something that could improve, and I hope that progress well for you. Yes, so do I. And I remember Fantastic Voyage, though not clearly. I seem to remember there was a fogginess between zones. That's quite right. They were on the Bermuda Triangle Sea. This green mist was there. They ended up shipwrecked on an island, and as they moved into the island, the fog would return and there'd be another time zone on this island, and they needed to find their way home. There's 13 episodes in that. I always wanted to be Jared, of course. But yeah, it's on Legends at the moment. So that's great. And you had a question for last week, and if I remember rightly, the question was, have you bought something in the past that was supposed to improve something but actually made it worse? And quite simply, the easy answer to that is that very early on, a friend of mine had a problem with a graphic card. And I swapped out the graphic card, but it was glitching like mad. Could never work it out why. I did do an uninstall, and it made no difference when I installed the other ones back. And then I lost the thread there where I was going. So what I needed to do, because there was no internet, is tried to go back to basics, and I couldn't find a utility or app that basically would remove all the drivers. You can do it now. Basically, you go into safe mode, uninstall the drivers. When you turn it back on, it rediscovers the card, puts a new config sheet in, and installs the drivers. So I do that all the time now. But back then, we didn't have that type of software. So that was interesting. So that's all your questions as well. Thank you very much, Colin. Absolutely appreciated. And just lost my cursor. So everything's going okay. Right, so the next one is Paul Gibbons. And he's put, Paul Gibbons has put, "Hi, great video. Hope your mum is doing okay. Look after yourself," which is nice and short and sweet, which is absolutely brilliant. I like that. And I thank you very much, Paul. Salute to you. And we get to Martroid, who's put, "Hi, Del. Cheers for another great vlog. A friend and I watched a film the other day called Sasquatch Sunset. I don't recall you mentioning it previously, so wonder if you've ever seen it yourself or aware of it. Absolutely not on both accounts. I need to write that one down. It's a special time indeed. It really is. Thanks very much for that." And my old mate Mainmeister's written something as well. He's put, "Thanks for the support and kind words, fella. Like yourself, it's not. He's supposed to be there. It's not been easy this last while, and having YouTube interaction helps to keep your mind off of life's real stuff. Can't agree any more with you on that. My God, I tell you what, sometimes I love to just delve into electronic lands and just think that the world's not here. I wish I could sometimes. So, won't be a moment. And before I go any further, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody, really, for putting up with me a little bit. I've not been feeling well at all this week. Been very, very tired. It's probably what's slowing me down a little bit. Obviously, there are other distractions, stuff that's going on that you can't hear or see. But I love doing this blog. And I just want to say thanks to everybody that asks a comment. And I hope I answer it well. I'll try to speed this up a little bit and make it far more interesting. It's just this week I've just been so exhausted. It's unbelievable. But let's move on. We've got Roberts Retro Gaming, my friend in Canada. What a great guy. And he's put, "Hello, Del. Sadly for the world and especially for the US, Donald is a moron." That's Donald Trump. Yeah, understood. "Unfortunately for me, I've not been able to make the time to get through your entire blog this week. This weekend, my wife and I are traveling, taking a mini vacation of 3 days after attending a memorial service for a member of the extended family. Question: why don't you play in the high score kerfuffle? Feel free to ignore this question." No, I won't ignore it. What can I say about the high score kerfuffle? It's probably just a time thing mostly. Secondly, I don't want to embarrass you all by my skills of being an absolutely fantastic game player. I mean, I would literally destroy the lot of you. I've seen some of you and I'm just going, "What, you call that a score? Jesus." No, of course, all of that is absolutely utter nonsense. No, it's because I am not very good at gaming. And the other thing is that, the time aspect. I'd love to be able to sit down and play a game and get a good score and get on a table and all of that sort of stuff. Be part of a community and live it. But it's very difficult with my mother at the time, which is why I love it when you go and do these things. I mean, I know that you showed off at Omega Race this week in one of your videos, but we'll get to that in a bit. And you just put, "I wish you and your mum and your sister and the family all the best," which is absolutely fantastic. And the last one on here is from Through the Lens, my friend Josh. He's put, "Wanted to leave a comment and say how much I love these blogs each weekend. It's become a part of my Sunday routine, listening to how you are, how your mum is doing. Eager listening to how you are and how your mum is doing. Hope she's well, by the way. And your life in general is extremely wonderful to listen to. I will keep listening each week. Your friend Josh. No, such a lovely comment to leave behind. Absolutely fantastic. I don't get too many comments. So many people think I do. It's great that when people do comment, give me feedback along those lines. Absolutely brilliant. And all I can say is, please, please, please keep watching as I keep watching you. I do the very best I can to help you out. And that is the end of the shout outs. So in a moment, we're going to move to what I watched on YouTube, but it's got a slightly different name now. It's just watched on YouTube recap. And I'll be back in a moment and we'll spin through that as fast as we can. And we get to the bits now where it's called watched on YouTube. And oh my God, there hasn't been that much in regards to what I always watch. If you ever watched my blogs, you'll know I watched This Week in Retro, Tecmo, Gadget Show, chronologically gaming. Well, Tecmo did nothing, Gadget Show did nothing, and chronologically gaming did a recap of some of the stuff that he missed in the 70s. So there's less to talk about in there. But This Week in Retro is still there as a godsend. And basically, they did their 3 bits this week. Running out of movie ideas was one subject. Aussie Arcade runs out of credits was another. And Windows goes portable was another. And Neil was here for this particular one. He is now taking a hiatus because of family life. And I don't blame him. But we have got Chris coming back, and if anybody's ever watched the show, you'll know that Chris is from Australia, got his own show. I don't watch Chris as much as I used to because he bought a Commodore 64 and then sold it because he said he had no nostalgia for it. But I'm surprised he got rid of it. But that meant that he's doing more and more of one particular type of computer, or two. So I sort of haven't watched as much. I still do watch it, but it's just not as much. So the next one after my mainstays was the Retro Collective, which is basically tied in with This Week in Retro because it's basically the cave, from before. And they were advertising the fact that the Mr. Multisystem 2 has arrived. And pre-ordering is from the 6th, which is a couple of days' time. This is your brilliant time to get a Mister. We've mentioned the Mister before. Only this is a device where the Mister is integrated into the main board. And therefore you can just add in just snap-ins that you want to have, like joystick controllers and so forth. But the price is great. There's 2 versions, a digital version and an analog version. The analog being more expensive, but the price is like £220, £230. When I bought my Mister, along with all the case and everything else, it came to nearly £500. So absolute bargain. Might even buy one as a second for myself, where I can put it underneath my TV and have it permanently connected. So that's something that's good. So just remember the Retro Collective, the advertisement of the Mr. Multisystem 2. Absolutely brilliant video. Definitely worth a watch. Then I saw a channel called Video Game Esoterica. He did a Sharp X68000 on the Mister, gets some updates. And yes, they've added some games, made it so that they're easily more playable. And the X68000 is one of my favourite computers to play games on of all time. So it's absolutely fantastic. Then you've got John... I can't read my writing. Snared? Yes, that's right. Who it's got here. Oh yes. So John Savage is sort of like a person who does Doctor Who, and he did a ranking of the Fifth Doctor's episodes from start to finish. So there's about 22 of them, and he put them into a tier list of exceptional, okay, and dog's poo, and everything in between. So that was brilliant, because the Fifth Doctor is probably one of those ones where I was at my time in my 12, 13 years, of age. So, of course, I was quite impressionable to Doctor Who. Tom Baker was still somebody that I recognised and remembered and loved watching. But Peter Davison was not all that bad. Then you got The Art of Storytelling. This is based on that guitarist that died, The Alarm. But he was listing albums that basically passed through the radar, and thought that it was best that he mentioned that you can get these albums and they're absolutely fantastic. Then there was a very interesting article called The Art of Storytelling. Basically, it's an hour long and it tells you how to write a script. And he kept referencing a particular episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. To be quite honest, I couldn't not agree with him. This was called The Inner Light, the actual episode. And it's where Picard falls into a deep sleep and lives out his whole life in another body in 20 minutes. So in his mind, he lived until he was 80 years old on a totally different planet, just so he could understand what this whole planet was about that they're on now, which was pretty much empty. So that was a great one. And I just want to talk about what Mainmeister tried to talk about a couple of weeks, which really gets my goat. And that is these people that do what they call building audits. They take a drone up into the air, fly over, take camera footage, and then it would seem spark arguments with people that are at the gates trying to do their job. And I'm seconding what Mainmeister said after watching a number of these, is that there's certain people that do this not as a hobby, they do it as a way of life. And if you start doing things where you'll have a no-fly zone over all these areas that you used to do. So that's particularly that one. And then there was one called Idle, IDYL, who talked about a love affair he had with games back in 2005, and it was called Guild Wars. And Guild Wars is a great game. It's one that I told you I played for hours and hours, and then when Guild Wars 2 came along, I played for, well, it must be about 6 years non-stop. It's now 12 years old. But you could buy the original Guild Wars for next to nothing these days, and you'll have 3 sort of like expansions and a main expansion for one particular price, and then play the whole campaign, and it will take you months. So definitely worth your attention. And I hope that's answered all those questions I watched on YouTube. There's just 2 more to go now. Pressing buttons that are going wrong. Won't be a moment. Yeah, so I was talking about these auditors, and I'd never looked at these auditors before, and Mainmeister talked about them, and basically I went and had a look at them, and I can see why they could be addictive, but basically he's quite right. There's people that do this for a living, and people are scared of drones, and basically people that sort of like excruciate on your privacy, taking car number plates and all that sort of stuff. And he's quite right. He's trying to educate the law and all of this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, he's antagonizing And basically the police are just going to clamp down more and make it harder for the people that do this as a living, as a job. These people are getting thousands of people, and they're not interested in the buildings at all, interested in the argument. In fact, I should think if he looked at the actual statistics on YouTube at the bits that are the high points of his video, I'm pretty sure they'll forward the bit at the beginning and just look at the argument, where a guy comes out and says, I'm going to take that drone off of you, and all of that. But anyway, enough said about that. Mainmeister came up with a fantastic video for me to watch. I watched one, and oh my God, was I shouting. I was going, oh my God, I can't believe there's videos like this out there. Apparently they've been out there for years. I dare say my YouTube now is going to be full of you must watch this type of video stuff, but there we go. We're going to move on now to film, TV and soundtracks on YouTube, and we get to some of my friends on here, as well as people that I watch on a regular basis and on a non-regular basis. So we've got Ian Hill, The Ramblings. As you know, I do work with him on a Wednesday. We have a lovely chat, but oh my God, this man, what he pumps out each week. He's done my top 5 crime films from 1949 to 1956. He did a review of Doctor Who, The Five Doctors, which is a fantastic story, one of my favourites. Much maligned over its years, but it's no doubt it's an absolute joy and fun to watch. I love it. He unboxed a gift from me. Now, I've just explained that I showed you earlier on Elton John's Diamonds. I'd got another free CD version of it, which was a cut down version. Didn't need it anymore. And Ian was buying some Elton John albums, and we started talking about Elton John, and it was my favourite artist, and I play piano. And he bought some, and I just thought, oh, it'd probably like a discography, of a certain number of tracks, and it might encourage him to buy some other albums. And that's where that came from. He loved it, did a video of it. I thank him for that, but really, it's just something in my collection that I didn't need, and I could see that he could get a benefit out of it. So that was absolutely fantastic, and I was glad to do that. Then he did an X-Files season 4 episode 1 review, so he's starting that season 4 now. Now we're getting into the gritty of X-Files, I have to say. Then he did a Doctor Who sticker book collection part 2, because he did a part 1 last week. Bit like my trading cards. Very, very interesting. The only thing that's different between the two really is that you'll see me watch the packets, really. So that was good. And then we, like I said, we did my live. So absolutely fantastic. What a week for my friend. And I just wish him all the success in his channel. I mean, he's got no end of subscribers, and he's a big supporter of me. And I'm just a small fry type of person that just loves to talk about my hobby. That's all it is. It's for no other reason. And of course, I do my blog for my nephew and niece, which is not going well today, but please understand, there's a lot of sleep deprivation with me, and my tablets have been increased as well. And it's taken me some time to get a balance, but hopefully this is coming across okay. Then we come across another person who I've got great respect for, Mondo Chelovic Movies. And as I said before, I'm not that up on horror, so it's nice to have somebody that you can go to. And he does lots and lots of pickups and stuff, not just horror. But this week it was the pickups of 4K and Blu-ray up until the 28th of April. And oh my God, has he bought some stuff. We've bought some stuff that, very similar. I bought the Hammer line up till now, and there's another new Hammer one coming out called Quatermass. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that coming out. So that's definitely a channel to go and watch. Then we've got Through the Lens, my friend Josh. I talked about him before. He does film critiques, and he's a bit like Barry Norman, but without the sort of like patronizing bit in it, really. He says it as he sees it. And that's very refreshing for me. He did the Jenna Ortega film you've never heard of, and Will the Marvel film Thunderbolts be the savior for the Marvel comic universe, the Marvel cinematic universe? Which is again a very interesting, in-depth think about where we are with Marvel and their cinema versions of their comics that they do. And there's been some dross for quite a few years now, since lockdown, I would say. And he wanted to know if Thunderbolts is going to be that saviour. I'll let you watch that and you can find out what he thinks. Salute, my friend Josh, absolutely brilliant. And we get to Did You See That? He's had a very interesting week because he watched Thunderbolts, but he watched it on his honeymoon in Tokyo. My God, isn't that a fun video to do? You go on holiday for your honeymoon and basically you go and watch a film with your new wife. Absolutely marvellous. And he also did... Let's talk about the Pooniverse IP, the IP that is horror related based on nursery rhymes and kiddish shows. So that was interesting because it does seem to be quite big these days, turning out these scary films based on our beloved characters that we grew up with, like Paddington and Winnie the Pooh and that sort of stuff. So that was brilliant. Then we moved to Movie Collector, and as you know, I've spoken about him before. He's an ex-projectionist, and he did a review of the 4K version of Chinatown, which isn't really new. It's been out for a long time. I've got that film. Love the film to death. It's one of my favourite Jack Nicholson films. Much better than the follow-up, The Two Jakes. But I do believe that needs a 4K treatment as well. It'll probably look and sound so much better. But he did anyway. Chinatown. If you're ever interested in knowing of an incredibly good film, Chinatown is one that you need to see what he thinks of it. Then you've got Jamie Powell, who did a shop-along, which wouldn't normally be something that you could probably turn around and say, well, that isn't really very newsworthy. What are you doing that for? But it was his birthday shop-along. So that's always going to be very interesting and something that you hope he has a fantastic day on, is going out and spending all those vouchers that you got from people. Absolutely marvellous. I'm not jealous at all. Let's see. Then we've got Playtendo guy, my friend Pete, who I've been on many a chat event with. He did a huge 4K and Blu-ray haul, a Russ Meyer 4K series review, and he did a Thunderbolts movie review and reaction video, which was just a minute short. But you can get in what you want to say about a film in that particular space in time. So that was brilliant. Please go and subscribe to any of these people. They're all touting for you to watch them, and they do such great content. Some of it is of such high standards, it's unbelievable. And Playtendo guy, or my friend Pete, as I call him, does some great stuff. And then the soundtrack I've been listening to has mostly been about Ron Goodwin. And the CD that I've been listening to is the Miss Marple films. The Miss Marple theme is a fantastic theme that Ron Goodwin did. Absolutely fantastic. I like anything with a harpsichord in anyway. So it had me hooked from the very start, to be quite honest.
So we're moving. When I was talking about the music just now of, I think it was Ron Goodwin. Was it Ron Goodwin? The Miss Marple theme, wasn't it? I've started to put a public folder out there in my YouTube of music that I listen to in regards to film scores and TV. I think that music is great to discuss, and it's very difficult to do that in YouTube land, because if you play any of the music, you get bloody copyright stuff. I got one last week for The Heretic. It's just a movie trailer, but it happened to have a track in there that's blocked in Russia. So I got a partial block on my blog last week. Hopefully people in Russia were able to watch it, but I did notice that I had 10 less people watch it than the week before. So maybe there was 10 people in Russia that couldn't see my blog last week. Just made me laugh. But Ron Goodwin, what a composer. And the Miss Marple theme, fantastic. But most people will remember him for 633 Squadron and Battle of Britain and all of those. He did lots of war type music. But he did also a favourite track of mine for a film called Trap, which is actually been used by the BBC for years now for the London Marathon. If you've listened to the main music that introduces the London Marathon every year, you'll know that's a Ron Goodwin track for a film called Trap, by the way. So absolutely brilliant. But we're moving on now to the game and tech stuff of YouTube. That's all my friends that are in Discord and stuff. I know these people. I speak to them all the time. Absolutely fantastic. They've all got channels. Definitely go and watch them. And we come across the first one, Down the Rabbit Hole. And he did the top 10 wow moments in games, which is a community question that comes out from Wee Bob Art. By the way, Wee Bob Art is down here as well, saying he did a community question. So I'll wrap these two up together. Wee Bob Art has got a fantastic art channel, but he's big on community and wants to ask people questions and see what their answers are and give his own opinion on what his top 10 wow moments are in games. So, of course, Down the Rabbit Hole loves a community question and instantly came out with a video. This is where I'm going, do you know what? I wish I could have done that. The amount of wow times that there have been in games, I should easily be able to do it, but it's so difficult to sit in front of a camera and try and record these things. And there have been so many wow moments. I mean, I remember plugging in Yar's Revenge and having that colour band in the centre of the screen. I'd never seen anything like it. That was fantastic. You know, being able to control a line on the screen when my dad bought me my first Pong machine. All wow moments, all the way up to the wow moments that you get all the time in 2024, 2025. So yeah, I'd love to have done that. Maybe I still will. It's just a matter of whether I'll get time to do it. Then his second video was no time to swap partners in Dragon's Lair. I'll let you watch these videos. It's very interesting that two players in an arcade, when the first player dies and the second player needs to come in, sometimes there was only one controller. The person would have to move out of the way, let the person pick up the controller and start from where they actually died, not where the person died from just now. So yeah, apparently it's 2 to 3 seconds. It's just not enough. And there's no way of changing it from what I could tell. So there we are. That was a great video. We moved to Robert's Retro Gaming, or as I call him, Canada Atari God. And I am not worthy. But oh my God, the stuff he's done. He's done No Man's Sky episodes 37 to 38. He's done Craft Mine episode 4, Minecraft episode 141, a quick go on the ZX Spectrum's Manic Miner game, the Atari 8-bit games of Kickstart and Groove, and he did an arcade one where he's doing an arcade top score thing called Omega Race, which I did on my channel when I reviewed the VIC-20 version. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic there. Great stuff. And then we get to Steve's Gaming. And Steve's just come back and he's had a terrible time, but it's so good to see him. And oh my God, he's come back with how many videos? Jesus. So he did a channel update with a quick gameplay of a game called Zybots. He continued with his HomeSoft range, which was disc number 52. He played a Spectrum game called Bubble in Trouble, a Commodore 64 game called Goblin. This is quite a homebrew later on type game. And then he played a recent Steam game called Balatro. I think that's how you pronounce it. It was gifted to him from a mutual friend, Frank Holder.
And it looked like he had a great time with it. It looked complex. I'm not very good with deck building games, but it looks like he had an immense time with it. And salute to my friend. You know, you little bastard, you're just too good, you little shit. My little salute I have to do. Salute to my friend. Nice to see him back. Then we go move to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, who's doing another high score kerfuffle. This one is called Everything C Commodore 64 challenge, and they're playing Tapper at the moment. The old game Tapper. I used to love Tapper. Never really saw it in the arcades though, but I've always been able to play the home versions, and I've played many of them. Absolutely fantastic. 20th Century Gaming, moving forward, did a Commodore 64 live where he played some of the top 5 shoot-em-ups he's ever played in his life, what he considered to be the top 5. And I couldn't really disagree with him. There were some really good ones in there. And you've heard me mention LFC Gamer and videos. He did a vlog dated the 1st of the 5th, 2025. And it was a corker. It was all talking about Arsenal and what's been going on in his life and everything. Just what you want, really. Then you got Seb's Place, who did a very comprehensive review of a game. And it was called Double Dragon. But he not only did it on the arcade, he did it on all the home systems as well. And he posed the question, were all Double Dragon games crap back in the day? Watch that video, make your own mind up. Mainmeister, as I mentioned him before, he basically did a Saturday night Sid stream where he played Commodore 64 music through the night, an Arcade Perfect My Arse on Zybots, which Steve also did, based on Mainmeister doing that video the day before. And that comes to the end of the blog in written format. I suppose we ought to better move to what's arrived in the post this week. So I had to go over there and get them. Forgot to didn't have them on the side here. And we'll put overhead cam on. There we go. And we'll see whether I can show these to you. There is Val Kilmer's Tombstone, which is a gorgeous looking steelbook. So looking forward to that one. Gandhi. Now that must have been one of the most pirated films along with E.T. and Rocky. Because when we got our video recorder, I remember Gandhi was one of the films that we got as a sort of like a pirate release, I suppose you could say. It's now in my collection. Love that film. Brings back some happy memories. As does this next one, which is Stripes. I Want You, it says, with Bill Murray. Absolutely fantastic sort of early 80s comedy. It's just nice to be able to laugh at yourself, but he's no Sergeant Bilko, don't get me wrong. Then we've got The Brutalist, which, as you know, won lots of Oscars this year. We've talked about The Brutalist at large for quite some time. And the last one is Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider, which is brilliant. Definitely worth a watch on that. So we'll go back to new camera, and I'm going to step away for a minute, and then we're going to watch some trailers. So back in a second. So as you know, we do the trailers towards the end, so I think we'll reach that point now. Some of these are what I've already seen, and some of them are what's come through the post this week. So I'm going to go to media playback, and you're going to sit back and watch some trailers, and I'm going to shut up for a bit, which is probably good news after this blog.
Friend of yours back?
He's our new preacher.
Hey, you messed up some of my boys, preach.
Nothing personal.
Who but a gunfighter could have done such a thing?
Sounds like a man I once knew. Couldn't be. The man I'm thinking about is dead.
Preacher, you and your friends have 24 hours to pack up and leave.
That gold is mine, and if you make me fight for it, I will.
Well, there's a lot of sinners hereabouts. You wouldn't want me to leave before I finish my work, would you?
You bring him to me.
It's an old score. It's time to settle it.
And behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed with him.
You through?
Those squatters are standing in the way of progress.
Theirs or yours? Only by standing together you're going to beat the Lahods of the world.
We need a miracle. Preacher!
The Lord certainly does work in mysterious ways.
What the hell is going on? The agent got a telegram, and it just said he is coming. Who the hell is he? I don't know, sir.
Some men change their times.
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
One man changed the world for all time.
Well, whoever you are, we don't want you here. I suggest you get back on that train before it leaves.
They seem to want me.
Columbia Pictures presents a world event. A Richard Attenborough film, Gandhi.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
The story of one man whose voice spoke out for millions.
To gain independence, we must prove worthy of it.
From his humble beginnings
You're an ambitious man, Mr. Gandhi.
I hope not.
to his ultimate triumph, he was the conscience of all mankind.
Where there's injustice, I've always believed in fighting.
His torment ended a nation's suffering.
I will fast as a penance for my part in arousing such emotions, and I will not stop until they stop.
His greatest weapon was peace.
In this cause, I too am prepared to die. There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. I want to document coldly, rationally, what is being done here. It is my duty to sentence you to 6 years in prison. Since your arrest, the riots have hardly stopped. If we obtain our freedom by murder and bloodshed, I want no part of it.
But do you really believe you could use non-violence against someone like Hitler?
What you cannot do is accept injustice from Hitler or anyone.
Gandhi.
They're calling you Mahatma, great soul.
Starring Martin Sheen, Sir John Gielgud, Edward Fox, Ian Charlson, Candice Bergen, Trevor Howard, John Mills, Rohini Hattangadi, and introducing Ben Kingsley as Mohandas Gandhi.
I am a Muslim, and a Hindu, and a Christian, and a Jew, and so are all of you.
Men honored him. Women loved him. An empire feared him. A nation worshipped him.
Long live Mahatma Gandhi!
Long live Mahatma Gandhi!
Gandhi, his triumph, changed the world forever.
You're a bum. And that's all you'll ever be. A bum.
Are you stuck in a dead-end job? Personal problems got you down.
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
I've lost my job, my apartment, my car, and my girlfriend.
Well, the Army can turn your life around.
Before I knew it, she was walking next to me, singing, do, I did it, dum, did it, do.
Join a whole new breed of professionals.
Oh my God, Mama!
Learn what it's like to feel like a man. Get your body into incredible shape. Master important career skills.
What are you going to do with that?
This. And this.
And represent your country in foreign lands.
Chicago! Bang, bang!
So if you're a man who likes to take charge of your own life,
You're different! You're weird! You're a mutant! You're a killer! You're a trained killer! You're a lean, mean, violent machine! I'll do
and this looks like your kind of challenge,
So am I to understand that you men completed your training on your own?
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
join the wackiest group
Dazzle, dazzle!
that ever put on a uniform.
Gentlemen, this is the EM50, Urban Assault Vehicle.
And ride with them as they blunder across borders.
Hey, Louis, get this thing moving. Come on.
You're dangerous, you know that?
Hard to hit.
All right, steady, steady, steady.
We got one heavily armed recreational vehicle here, man.
Oh, this is interesting.
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom.
Stripes, I'd forgotten quite how funny that film can be, and it reminds me of that time where there's a lot of army films, and I was watching things like what was it, Sergeant Benjamin, absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward to watching that one again after watching that trailer, and of course Pale Rider, what a film. I love Clint Eastwood anyway, and I love a good western. And it's funny when you get films like Gandhi, we don't see epics like that very much. And I remember seeing that film. My dad brought it back with the video recorder. He'd got it, I think, a pirate copy from work, and I put it in, and I didn't really understand what I was watching. But as I've gotten older and I've gone back to it, I've understood it. And then at the time I'm in my life now, I got a huge, bigger appreciation of it. Some people would say it was boring. It's not. It's telling a tale. It's telling a tale of, of Mahatma Gandhi's life at that particular period of time, and it was such an uproar at the time. So it is a great film to watch. And with that, that's sort of like the end of the blog, and I'm sorry it's been a bit bitty, and I'll make sure that I get a bit more sleep and less sleep deprivation next time. But there's a number of firsts this week. I believe it's 23 years ago yesterday that the first Spider-Man film came out, under the, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe just around the corner. And I remember seeing that at the pictures 23 years ago yesterday. Wow. And last month it was the 20th anniversary of a game that I played to death called Guild Wars. Wow, 20 years. I got that in 2005, day one, played it to death, loved it. Yeah, it's not going to look good today, but it is also not going to look that bad. And with that, I'm going to call it a day. I hope you've enjoyed this blog. I've certainly enjoyed doing it, even though it's been a bit bitty. Going to make my mum a cup of tea. Going to make sure it gets out there.
and I hope you have a great time. There's going to be some more content out from me this week, I hope. And with that, I'm going to say salute, and I hope you had a good time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.